keeps you hopeful?
Yes, I'm hopeful.
What keeps you hopeful?
The faith and the strength of our family, and the fact of I know how hard the investigative teams work, and they're nonstop.
Who asked that? Who asked that?
Oh, I wanted to speak about your faith because I know it was important to you.
If it were your child, would you have an option not to be hopeful?
No, absolutely not.
A lot of people have been reading about this, have read about it over the last 5 years, but to you, to all of you, this was more than just someone you're reading about. It was a family member and her friend. So if you could just describe for those out there, I mean, this is the type of pain that hurts.
It hurts. We're real people. It's real lives. Some people forget that they are reading, and it becomes entertainment. It becomes a game to some, and they just forget that it's real people living a real nightmare.
News elements in the Delphi Murders case. Less than 30 minutes ago, we learned the judge in this case has recused himself. So this means he is stepping down from being the judge in the case.
This comes after he made statements saying that he felt unsafe. Karen Campbell joins us now to explain that.
Well, Rob and Judy, for the past 5.5 years, the question of who killed these two teenage best friends has weighed heavily on this community and, of course, the families. Well, today that question may have finally been answered.
We all knew this day was coming when law enforcement released information about the Anthony Schatz account. Something's been different ever since. It's almost like something's been in the air. Every day that's passed, it's felt like we were closer and closer to an arrest. And just like everyone on the internet thought, police announced that they arrested.
It was a numb and bittersweet feeling for Becky Patty, finding out this week that 50-year-old Richard Allen has been charged in the murder of her granddaughter, Libby German, and her best friend, Abby Williams.
Wait, who the hell is this guy? This is Richard Matthew Allen, the man who managed to evade law enforcement in the entirety of the internet for 5.5 years. He was captured on video and audio by Liberty German on the day of the murders. Just like police thought, he lived in Delphi. In fact, after the murders, Richard Allen, who worked at the local CVS pharmacy, printed photos for the family, free of charge. Here's a picture of him posing with the sketch of the killer. Here's a picture of him posing his daughter on the very bridge he's alleged to have abducted the girls from the year before this image was taken. Here's an image of him wearing what looks like the same blue jacket the killer was wearing. And still, somehow, nobody suspected him. Absolutely no one. I said in a previous video, The Price of Patience, that we weren't looking for someone who knew a monster. We were looking for someone who had been deceived by one. And this man managed to deceive an entire town of people that were actively hunting him. People online have basically accused every single male between the ages of 12 and 80 within a 100-mile radius, except for this guy. I guess we were all wrong, and at least it's all over now.
I'd like to remind everyone that this continues to be an active and ongoing investigation.
Today is not a day to celebrate, but the arrest of Richard M. Allen of Delphi on 2 counts of murder is sure a major step in leading to the conclusion of this long-term and complex investigation. This is really important. While I know you are all expecting final details today concerning this arrest, today is not that day. Today is not that day. This investigation is far from complete, and we will not jeopardize its integrity by releasing or discussing documents or information before the appropriate time. The time will come when additional details can be released. But again, today is not that day. Please continue offering tips that you would like to share. The many avenues to report will remain open and will be available to all.
This investigation is still very ongoing. We're keeping the tip line open, the tip email open. We encourage everybody to continue to call in tips, not only about Richard Allen, but about any other person that you may have. Prosecutor, when did Richard Allen become a suspect, and do you think he acted alone? Again, that's part of the investigation, so I'm not going to talk about those things. What I can say is that we have probable cause established by the court for his arrest, and he is in custody. He's being held currently without bond.
Okay, never mind. I guess it's not over now. Numerous times during the press conference, law enforcement made it very clear that the investigation was not over, that if anyone else was involved, they were going to find them.
We are going to continue a very methodical and committed approach to ensure that if any other person had any involvement in these murders in any way, that person or persons will be held accountable. Excuse me?
Do you assume there's any other individuals involved in this case?
We haven't closed the door on the investigation, and so that's why we keep the tip line and the tip email open. And so we're not presuming anything at this point, but we're going to continue to take tips, continue to take any information anybody has, and as we've done with all the information we've gathered, we're going to look at that and examine that and see where it leads us.
I mean, I just don't understand. How many people could be involved with something like this? And if there really was more, how the actual hell did they manage to cover it up for over 5 years? If this case was a movie, I would have walked out of the theater because none of it seems believable at all. I mean, really take a step back and process all of this. Because at first, police released the video and audio of the killer, then they gave the public this sketch of the killer, then in 2019 they released this sketch of the killer which looks nothing like the first sketch. Then, in December of 2021, police put out a YouTube video at 10 o'clock at night on a Monday asking for information about the online catfishing profile Anthony Shots. But Keegan Kline, who had made the Anthony Shots account, was actually in jail at the time for CSAM and had already actually confessed to making the account. Then, the murder sheet put out the transcript of Keegan Kline being told that he was communicating with Liberty German and he was actually the last person to talk to her while she was alive, and that he had apparently tried to destroy the one phone that communicated with her and had also used it to look up things like how long does DNA last on a body. Then, law enforcement had a month-long search of the Wabash River right by the Kline home, and apparently they searched the fire pit at Keegan Kline's grandparents' house. The murder sheet went on to report that Keegan Kline had even searched for directions to the Marathon gas station on the day of the murders, and that the FBI had accidentally destroyed the surveillance footage from the gas station when they attempted to download it. Then, out of the complete blue, a guy nobody has ever heard of apparently had his home raided, his yard dug up, a shoebox, a Macy's bag, a bundle of clothing, a vehicle, and something to do with photos was taken from his house, and a week later he was arrested and charged with the murders. To make matters even weirder, this guy just so happened to live incredibly close to the Marathon gas station, and when media asked the prosecuting attorney if either of the Klines were involved, the prosecutor responded by saying this.
I'm sorry? Again, that gets into the evidence we have of the investigation, and I know from everybody it's frustrating. I know everybody, not only reporters, but the family, everybody wants to know more information. I understand it's frustrating, but my goal is to maintain the integrity of this case. Hold on just a minute. We're not going to comment on that right now as part of the investigation. Again, we just encourage everybody to continue to call in tips if they have them about anybody, and we'll examine those tips.
I mean, did they find this guy because of the Klines? Or maybe the search of the Wabash River, or maybe somehow he was completely unrelated to them. But if he was unrelated and they were after this guy the whole time, why wait until October of 2022 to dig up his yard?
So here to help break down what happens next in this case, let's bring in former FBI agent Doug Coons. Doug, thank you so much for being here with us. I know you have spent a lot of time examining this case. Did you see this coming?
This last year, I would say yes. Prior to that, it seemed to be getting pretty stale. Hats off to these guys, the state police, the locals, the FBI, everybody that's been involved with this. They never gave up. The diligence and just the sheer amount of tips that were covered, the hard work involved. Hats off to those guys.
You know, and as we said, this is a case we've been following closely here at News Nation. I know I've personally been interested in this. Never heard this name before, though. Had Richard Allen ever been on your radar? Because I know his name was never mentioned publicly before.
It had not been on my radar or anyone's that I know of. Now, I've never been personally involved in this investigation as law enforcement, And when I retired about 4 years ago, we continued to get some tips into my private agency that we would pass on. But no, that's not a name I've ever heard come up.
Well, so Doug, Kelly kind of walked us through the ins and outs of this case, now more than 5 years in the making. This arrest coming now. Why now?
Some piece of information's come in, some piece of evidence has been found. I can only speculate like everybody else, but it seems to be after the arrest of this Kagan Klein that it seemed like they were kind of homing in on something. So I don't know if he's even still connected or not. I hate to speculate, but it just seems like there's probably some sort of connection.
What tips are they even asking for at this point? Are people still supposed to tip in things about Anthony's shots like the police asked? Nothing makes sense anymore. I mean, something had to have happened that caused them to search this guy's house. It's just that all of the things that do make sense still don't seem to make any sense right now.
And Dan, you say the search happened because they had probable cause, but the probable cause affidavit has been sealed. Why are officials being so secretive?
I think it's because they believe there could be another person involved. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean the person was involved in the killing, because it seems that the crime scene also may have been staged. So maybe there was someone else who was involved. Maybe, I mean, look, this is possible that, he was involved in one part and they're looking for someone involved in another part. We just don't know, but it is odd that they haven't released any more details and that they're keeping everything so tight, so close to the vest, even though there's now been a charge. That's what I suspect, because when you're doing this kind of investigation, you do want to make sure that if there's someone else out there, that they don't have all the information, right? You want to be able to know this is something only the killer or someone involved could have known or would have known. And if all the information's out there, then that wouldn't be the case.
Despite the countless theories, the wild rumors, bizarre conspiracies, well-meaning people, accusations based around feelings and not facts, hateful comments, to the memorials and walks, YouTube videos, well-thought-out ideas, skeptical approaches, a caring community, thoughts and ideas from retired law enforcement, Reddit posts, fundraisers, television shows, people who left drawings, made art, played free concerts, people who donated money to help, people who only wanted to hurt. The fighting, the hours and hours of research people gave, bike rides with thousands of people, those who spread flyers, told their family and friends, people who actually changed their light bulbs in front of their houses to show support. Thoughtful journalists, songs and dedications, people we wish would have just gone away and people we wish we would have never lost. People who woke up every morning and posted that today might be the day. After all of that searching, after so much effort, this is the man law enforcement believe is the person all of us have been looking for. This pathetic nothing of a guy who is most likely going to go to prison and be forgotten while the memory of the girls who outsmarted him and became his eventual downfall is going to live on. Maybe it turns out more people were involved. Maybe it was just him. Either way, I think all of us are going to have those answers sooner or later. It sucks to wait, but ironically, I can think of someone who's wanted to know what law enforcement have known for a lot longer than any of us have. And I have a strong feeling that he is terrified that he's finally going to find out.
We believe you are hiding in plain sight. For more than 2 years, you never thought we would shift gears to a different investigative strategy, but we have. We likely have interviewed you or someone close to you. We know that this is about power to you, and you want to know what we know. And one day, you will.
It's hard. How can somebody do that and then just go on living life like nothing happened? I don't understand. Probably never will understand that.
And with that being said, thank you so much for watching.